It all began with a shocking injustice. A starving wolf pack, driven from their home, cornered a young boy in his own backyard. These weren't just wild animals. They were victims of greed, forced down by illegal land destruction that no one saw coming. But just when hope seemed lost, an old dog named Max rose one last time to protect what mattered most. And you won't believe how this story turned, and why, in the end, justice didn't just return, it roared. It was one of those nights that felt too quiet. A thick blanket of snow muffled every sound in the forest behind the Harper family's home in northern Colorado. The moon hung low and heavy, casting a silver glow across the pine trees, while cold wind whispered through the branches, just loud enough to make you feel like something unseen was moving out there. Inside the Harper house, the world couldn't have felt more different. The fireplace crackled softly, radiating warmth through the wooden walls of the cabin. A baby cried faintly upstairs while dinner dishes clinked in the kitchen. From the living room came the sound of cartoons and the innocent laughter of a child, the kind of laughter that makes a home feel safe. And lying on a rug in front of the fire was Max, their old German shepherd. His once strong body now bore the weight of time. His back leg trembled from an old injury, his fur had faded around the muzzle, and one eye had grown cloudy. But even in stillness, there was something watchful about him, a presence that never fully slept. For 11 years, Max had been more than a pet. He had been a silent guardian, a protector. Emily often said he could sense danger before anyone else, and tonight, that instinct would be tested in a way no one could imagine. Outside, snow began falling again, soft at first, like ash. Then, a scream, high, sharp, real. Emily dropped the dish in her hands. It shattered on the floor, but she didn't hear it. She ran to the window, her breath caught in her throat. There, at the edge of the woods, just beyond the reach of their porch light, stood their 6-year-old son, Ben, alone, frozen like a statue. And directly in front of him, crouched low in the snow, was a figure that made Emily's heart stop. A wolf, lean, wild-eyed, its fur tangled with dirt and frost, was watching the boy, inching forward with calculated stillness. Emily's scream pierced the silence. "Ben!" She yanked the front door open, cold wind slamming into her chest. Jacob bolted past her without a word, instincts overriding everything. But before either of them reached the steps, something unbelievable happened. Max, old, stiff Max, moved. He didn't bark. He didn't hesitate. He flew. 1 second he was beside the fireplace. The next, he was tearing across the snow like a streak of fury and fire, his legs carrying more than just weight. They carried purpose. Ben didn't move. He couldn't, but he didn't need to. Max reached the wolf in seconds. With a force no one thought possible from a dog his age, he crashed into the predator, snarling louder than anyone had ever heard. Snow exploded around them as the two animals collided. Teeth snapped, bodies rolled, and for a moment everything was a blur of fur and sound. Emily cried out, unable to look, but unable to turn away. Jacob stopped short in the snow, frozen by the scene unfolding just feet ahead. Max was thrown to the ground, but he pulled himself up, shaking with effort, growling through clenched jaws. The wolf, now bleeding from its side, paced in a slow circle, readying for another strike. And then the world shifted again. From the darkness between the trees, another figure emerged. Larger, darker. Its yellow eyes reflected the porch light for a moment before it stepped into view, a second wolf, even more powerful than the first. Not a rogue, not a mistake. They were not alone. This wasn't a wild animal wandering too close to a home. This was a hunting ground. And Max, the old tired dog who should have never been able to stand, had just drawn the line in the snow. What the Harpers didn't know then, what none of them could have imagined, was that this night would not only test the loyalty of one dog, it would reveal a truth about survival, sacrifice, and the terrifying weight of instinct. And the most unexpected part had yet to come. Jacob's breath caught as he watched the second wolf emerge from the trees. His mind blanked. There was no time to think, only to act. He grabbed the nearest thing by the porch door, an old snow shovel. It wasn't much, but it was something. He ran into the cold, like a man possessed, snow crunching under his boots, heart thundering in his chest. Somewhere behind him, Emily's voice cried out, a mix of panic and prayer, but it was drowned out by the wind and the chaos ahead. Back at the door, Emily dropped to her knees, wrapping herself around Ben's trembling frame, shielding his body with her own. She held him so tightly it hurt, but he didn't make a sound. His eyes stayed locked on Max. Max, who now stood against not one, not two, but 3 wolves. He was surrounded. His coat, once a proud blend of black and tan, was now streaked with red. His legs shook from effort. His breathing was labored. But still, he didn't move. He didn't run. He didn't retreat. He stood, shoulders squared, head low, ears pinned back, like a weathered old soldier who understood what was at stake and had already made peace with it. Emily watched from the porch, frozen. Her mind raced with questions that cut deep. Why hadn't she listened to Max barking at the forest line the past few nights? Why had they dismissed the scattered tracks near the woods? Why hadn't they left the mountain before winter settled in? The lad wolf snarled and lunged. Emily gasped. But Max, slow, stiff Max, was faster. He met the attack head-on and locked his jaw around the wolf's throat with a force that shook the snow. He didn't let go, not when the wolf thrashed, not when the other 2 moved in from behind. He held on, because that was the only thing between the wild and his family. Jacob arrived just as the others closed in. Without hesitation, he raised the shovel and swung with every ounce of strength he had. The first strike hit one of the wolves hard in the ribs, sending it stumbling backward. The second wolf growled and turned to flee, but not before sinking its teeth deep into Max's side in a last act of defiance. Max didn't even flinch. He still didn't let go. Jacob dropped to his knees beside him. The cold didn't register. The fear didn't register. Only Max's body, trembling, weakening, but still standing, filled his world. Emily ran to them, dialing animal control with shaking fingers. Her voice was barely audible between the sobs as she explained what had happened. Her hands trembled so badly she could barely hold the phone. Ben hadn't moved from the porch, his small fists clenched tight at his sides, whispering again and again, like a mantra, "Come on, Max. You're okay. You're okay." The snow around them was stained now, the white broken by dark patches no one wanted to look at for too long. When the emergency vet finally arrived, the look in her eyes said more than her words ever could. She knelt beside Max, ran her hands gently across his ribs, and listened to his breathing. She looked up slowly. "He's strong," she said quietly, "but it's bad. He might not make it through the night." Emily broke down. Her knees gave out, and she sat in the snow, arms wrapped around herself, trying to breathe. But Ben didn't cry. He didn't panic. He walked slowly over to Max, knelt beside him, and placed a small hand gently on his head. And with a quiet voice that cut deeper than any scream, he whispered, "He's not done yet." Morning came with a heavy stillness. The forest outside stood frozen and quiet, as if waiting. Inside the Harper home, no one spoke. Emily stared out the window. Jacob paced. Ben held a drawing of Max with a red heart, then headlights. The vet stepped out, eyes tired, but smiling. "He made it through the night," she said. Tears came instantly. Relief flooded the room. Max was alive, barely. His injuries were grave, but his will to live was stronger. Word spread fast. Neighbors helped. Kids sent cards. One read, "You're the bravest dog in the world." 2 days later, a wildlife officer brought the truth. The wolves had been driven from the mountains by illegal land clearing. They hadn't attacked out of malice. They were starving. The story changed. Max hadn't just protected his family. He exposed something bigger. The development was shut down, the land restored, the wolves relocated safely. Max recovered slowly, but in spring he walked again, older, weaker, but standing. The Harpers honored him with a plaque. No ordinary dog, but a guardian of innocence and defender of all life. And that was the heart that wouldn't give up. 4-0.